He reverenced Bhagwan Shankara, the progeny of the Brahma, the very root of the tree of the piety, the beloved devotee of the King Sri Rama, the full moon that brings joy to the ocean of the wisdom, the sun that opens the lotus of the patience, the wind that disperses the clouds of the ignorance, who dispels the thick darkness of sins and eradicates the threefold agony, and who wipe off obliquity. I worship Sri Rama, the lighter of all, whose graceful form is embodiment of the joy and dark as a rainy cloud, who is clad in the charming yellow bark and carried in the hands a bow and the arrow, who has a beautiful, shining and the well-equipped quiver fastens to his vest, and is a pair of the large lotus eyes, who is adorned with a tuft of the matted locks on his head, and who is seen journeying with the Sita and Lakshmana. Sri Rama's virtues are mysterious. The sage as well as the learned men develop this patience when they appreciate them, while the deluded fools who are hostile to Sri Hari and has no love for piety get bewildered to hear of them. I have portrayed to the best of my ability the incomparable and the charming affection of the Sri Rama of the citizens of Ayodhya as well as Bharata. Now hear of the uh, holy exploit of the Lord that he wrought in the forest to the delight of the gods, men, and the Sikhs. On one occasion, Sri Rama culled lovely flowers and made with his own hands a number of ornaments with which he fondly decked Sita and sat with her on a beautiful rock of the crystals. The foolish son of the Indra, the lord of Celestial, took the form of the crow and wanted to test the might of the Sri Rama even as the most dull-witted ant would sound the depth of the ocean. The stupid fool who has distinguished himself as a crow with the sinister motive bit Sita in the foot with his beak and flew away. The Lord of Rahu came to know it only when blood rained from her foot and fitted a shaft on of reed to his bows. The Lord of Ragu is extremely compassionate and always fond of the meek, but the mischievous fools came and played a trick even with him. Winged with the spells and the shaft presided over by Brahma spread forth, and the crow in terror took the flight. Indra's sons now assumed his own forms and approached his father. But the latter refused to give him the shelter, knowing him to be the enemy of the Sri Rama. Having lost hopes of protection, he felt as Ram's at heart as the Sheikh Durwaza was afraid of the Lord discussed. Where weary and stricken with fear and the grief, he traversed the abode of the Brahma, the realms of the Lord Shiva, and all other regions. But no one even asked him to sit down. Who can dare afford shelter to an enemy of the Sri Rama? Listen, Garuda, mount of the Sri Hari. A mother become a terrible as death, and father assumes the role of the Yama, the god of the death. Ambortia turns into the Vemans, and the friend become a hostile as 100 enemies. The celestial river Ganga is converted into the Vaitarni, then the whole world become hotter than fire to him who is inimical to Sri Rama. The sage Narada saw Jayanta, Indra's sons in distress, and was moved with piety, for saints are always tender of heart. The sage sends him immediately to Sri Rama, and he carried out, save me, a friend of the suppliant. Bewildered and terrified, he went and clasped his feet and said, Mercy, mercy, O gracious Lord of the Raghu. I could not perceive your incomparable might and matchless glory, dull-witted as I am. I have reaped the fruit borne by my own action and have no sought refuge in you. Protect me, my Lord. When the all merciful Lord heard his most piteous appeals, he let him go with the loss of one eye, O Parvati. Out of the folly, Jayanta has committed offense against the Lord and therefore deserves death. And the latter took compassion on him and let him go. Who is there so merciful as hero of Raghuline? Staying at the Chitrakoot, the Lord of Raghu performed exploits of the many kinds which are sweet to the ear as nectar. Sri Rama then thought to himself, people will throng here now that everyone has come to know me. Taking leave of all the hermits, therefore, the two brothers Shri and Lakshmana left the place with Sita when the Lord repaired to the Atri's hermitage. The great Sikhs was rejoiced at the news, thrilling all over with joy. Atri springs up and ran to meet him, and seeing him come, Sri Rama to advance hurriedly towards him. Even as the two brothers protested themselves, the Sikhs lifted them and clasping them to his bosom, bathed them with tears of love. His eyes were gladdened by the sight of the Sri Rama's beauty, and then he reverently escorted them to his hermitage. Paying his homage to the Lord, he spoke kind words to him and offered him roots and fruits, which he relished much. As the Lord took his seats, Atri, the chief of the Sikhs, supremely wise as he was, feasted his eyes of his loveliness and joining his palm, proceeded to extol him. I reverence you who are so fond of your devotees, compassionate and gentle of disposition. I adore your lotus feet with which vouchsafe to your selfless lovers a quarter in your own abode. You are possessed of the exceedingly beautiful Swati form. You are the Mount Mandara, and as it were to chance the ocean of the mundane existence. You have eyes like the full blown lotuses and rid your votaries of the pride and other vices. Means in the might of your long arm and immeasurable your glory, you carry on your person a quiver, a bow, and an arrow. O Lord of the three world, the ornaments of the solar race, you broke the bow of the great Lord Shiva, delighting the greatest sage and lesson. You crush the host of the demons, the enemies of gods. You are an object of reverence to Lord Shiva and are adored by the Brahma and other divinities, an embodiment of the pure consciousness. You destroy all evils. I bow to Lakshmi's Lord, the fountain of joy and the salvation of the saints. I adore you with your spouse Sita and younger brother Lakshmana, yourselves a beloved younger brother of Indra, Sachi's Lord, men who worship the sole of your feet and are free from jealousy, sink not into the ocean of metamorphosis, turbulent with the below of the wrangling. They who living in speculations constantly worship you with their senses and mind etc. fully subdued for the sake of attaining liberation are able to realize their own self. I adore him, the mysterious Lord who is one without a second desireless, all powerful and omnipresent, the teacher of the world, eternal, transgetting the three gunas, sattva, rasa, and tamsa, and absolute self existence. I adore him who is the fond of the devotion, who is most difficult to access to sensually mind striver, but who is wish yielding tree to his own devotee. Nay, who is impartial and so easy to worship from day to day. I bow the Sita's Lord King Rama to matchless beauty. I reverence you with gracious to me and grant me devotion to your lotus feet. Men who recite this hymn with reverence undoubtedly attain your abode, acquiring devotion to your feet at the same time. Having prayed thus, the Sikhs bowed his head and joining his palms spoke again, my mind, O Lord, may never abandon your lotus feet. The Sita, who was so good natured and the modest, met Ansuya, Atri's wife, and clasped her feet. The Sikh's wife felt extremely pleased at heart. She blessed her and, seating her by her side, arrayed her in the heavenly robes and ornaments that remained ever new, clean and charming. In affectionate and mild tone, the holy lady then proceeded to discourse of some wifely virtues, making her an occasion for such discourse. Listen, O princess, a mother, father, and brother are all kind, but they bestow only limited joy. A husband, however, bestows unlimited joy in the form of the blessedness. O Vidya's daughter, vile is the woman who refused to serve him. Fortitude, piety, and friends, and a wife. These fours are put to the test only the time of the adversity. A woman who treats her husband with disrespect, even though he is old, sick, dull-witted, indigent, blind, deaf, wrathful, or most rash, shall suffer various torment in hell, the abode of the Yama. Devotion to body, speech, and mind to her Lord's feet is the only duty, sacred woe, and the penis of a woman. There are four types of faithful wife in this world. So declare the Vedas, the Puranas, and all the saints. A woman of the best type is convinced in her heart of the heart that she cannot even dream in this world of a man who other than her Lord. The meddling regarding another husband husband as her own brother, father, or son according to his age. She who is restrained by the consideration of the virtue or by the thought of her race is declared by the Vedas as a low woman, and know her to be the lowest woman in this world, who is restrained only by the fear and want of opportunity. The woman who deceives her husband as love a paramour is cast for 100 cycles into the worst form of the hell, known by the name of the Ruvarna. Who is so depraved as a woman who, for the sake of the moment pleasure, reckon not the torment that shall endure for a thousands million births. The woman who sincerely takes a vow of fidelity to her husband easily attained the highest estate, while she who is disloyal to her lord is widowed as soon as she attained her youth, wherever she may be reborn. A woman is impure by her very birth, but she attained a happy state hereafter by nature serving her lord. It is due to her loyalty to her husband that Tulsi is loved by the Srihari even to his this day, and her glory is sung by the all four Vedas. Listen, Sita, women will maintain their vow of fidelity of their husband by invoking your very name. Sri Rama being dear to you as your own life, it is for the good of the world that I have spoken to you on the subject. Janka's daughter Sita was overjoyed to hear this discourse and reverently bowed her head at the feet of Ansuya, the All Merciful, then said to the sage, with your permission, I would go to some other forest, continue to shower your grace on me, and knowing me to your servants, never cease loving me. Hearing these words of the Lord, who was champion of the virtue, the enlightened sage lovingly replied, you are the same Rama, the supreme deity, the beloved of the desireless and friends of the meek, whose favor is sought by the Brahma, the unborn, Lord Shiva, the sage Shankara, Shankha, and all other preachers, knower of the highest reality, and yet you are addressing such polite words to me. I now understand the wisdom of the Shri Goddess Lakshmi, who chose you her Lord, to the exclusion of all other God. Who can he who is unequaled and unsurpassed by anyone else be less amiable than he is? How can I say you may go now, my Lord? Tell me, my master, knowing as you do the hearts of the all. Having spoken thus, the sage kept gazing on the Lord, thrilling all over with emotions and his eyes flowing with tears. Thrilling all over with the excess of love, the sage riveted his eyes on the Lord's lotus face. He thought to himself, what prayers did I mutter and what austerity did I perform that I was unable to behold with my own eyes the Lord who is beyond all knowledge and transcends the three gunas as well as the senses and the mind. It is through japa, muttering of prayers, yoga, concentration on mind, and hosts of the religious observance that man acquire devotion which is incomparable as a mean of the God realization. So does Tulsidas sings the all holy exploit of Sri Rama, the hero of Raghuline, day and night. The praises of the Sri Rama destroys the impurities of the Kali age, subdued the mind, and are source of the delight. Sri Rama remains ever propitious to those who listen to them with reverence. This terrible age of the Kali is the repository of the sins, piety, spiritual wisdom, yoga or japa are out of the place in this age. They alone are wise who worship Sri Rama, giving up all hopes. Bowing his head at the lotus feet of the sage Sri Rama, the Lord of celestial human being, and the sage proceeded to the Sri Rama walk foremost with, while Lakshmana followed him in the rear, both appearing most lovely in the garb of the hermit. Between the two, Sita, who was the same as Shri, the goddess of prosperity, shone forth like Maya, which stands between Brahma, the absolute, and the Jiva, the individual soul. Rivers in the thickest hills and the rugged valleys recognized their Lord and gave him a smooth passage. Wherever the divine Lord of the Raghu passed, the cloud made a canopy in the heaven. Even as the trio wended their ways, the demon Viradha made them, and the hero of Raghuline slay him as soon as he made his appearance. Meeting his death at the hands of the Lord, he immediately attained the beauteous divine form. Finding him lead a miserable existence, the Lord sent him to his own abode. Accompanied by his lovely younger brother Lakshmana and Janka's daughter Sita, the Lord then visited the sage Sarbhanga. Gazing on Sri Rama's lotus face, the eyes of the great sage reverently drank in its beauty like bees. Blessed indeed was the birth of Sarbhanga. Said the sage, listen, gracious Rama, the hero of the Raghuline, the swan disporting the Mansa lake of the Lord Shiva's heart. I was about to leave the Brahma's abode when the report reached my ears that the Sri Rama himself was coming to the forest. I have ever since raged the road day and night. My heart is now soothed at the sight of my Lord. I have accomplished nothing to deserve your grace. Yet you have shown your grace to me, showing knowing me to be a humble servant. Really speaking, however, you have done me no favor, my Lord. You have only redeemed your woe, O stealer of your devotees' hearts. For the sake of the humble servants remains here before my eyes till I have quitted this body and meet you in your own abode. So saying, the saints offers to the lords whatever practice of yoga, sacrifices, japa, multitudes of the prayers, penance, and the fasting he has done, and receiving in returns the boon of devotions. Having thus acquired the rare gift of the devotion, the Sheikh Sarbanga prepared a funnel pie, and discarding all attachment from his heart, ascend it constantly about in my heart, O Lord, with Sita and your younger brother Lakshmana is your qualified and embodied form. Swarthi is a dark cloud, O graceful Rama. Having said so, he burns his body with the fire of the yoga, and by the grace of Sri Rama's rose to Vaikuntha. The Sheikh was not absorbed into the person of Sri Hari for his simple reasons that he has already received the boon of the personal devotion. The multitude of Sheikhs assembles on the occasions who saw the high state to which the great Sheikhs had now been translated were greatly delighted at heart. All the hosts of the Sheikhs now extol the Lord. Glory to the friend of the suppliant, the fountain of the mercy. Then the Lord of Raghu went on further into the forest, and many a host of the great Sheikhs accompanied him. Seeing a heap of the bones, the Lord of Raghu was moved with great compassion and inquired the hermits about the same. Through knowing everything, how it is that you asked us, our master, we know you are all seeing and can read the innermost feeling of all. Hosts of the demons have devoured all the Sheikhs. The eyes of the Sri Rama, the hero of the Raghurain, filled with tears when he heard this. With uplifted arm, he took a vow to rid the earth of the demons. Then he gladdens all the hermits by visiting their hermitage one by one. The Sheikh Agastya has learned discipline Sutiksna by name, who was great lover of the Lord. He was devoted to Sri Rama's feet in thoughts, words, and deed, and had no faith in any other deity, even in dream. As soon as the news of the Lord's approach reached his ears, he rushed out hurriedly, indulging in his own fancy. Will the Lord of Raghu, the befriender of the meek, O good heaven, ever shows his grace to the rest like me? Will Lord Sri Rama and his younger brother receives me as his own servants? I have no unswearing faith in my heart, nor in my mind illuminated by the light of the devotion, dissipation, or wisdom. I have no association with the saints and practice neither yoga, concentration of the mind, and nor japa, muttering of prayers, nor the rituals, nor do I claim any steadfast devotion to the Lord's lotus feet. I bank on one characteristic of the all merciful Lord. He holds the devotees dear who depends exclusively on him. This inspires me with the hopes that my eyes will be rewarded today by the sight of the Lord's lotus feet that delivers one from the bondage of the worldly existence. The wise was drowned in the flood of love. His condition, O Parvati, cannot be described in word. He had no idea of the four quarters, much less of the intermediate points of the compass, nor could he make out of the track. He did not know who has was the whither bound. He would now turn back and then resumes his journey in the same direction, and now he would dance and sing song or praises. The Sheikh had been gifted with devotions of the nature of intense loves, and the Lord watched him hiding behind a tree. When the hero of Raghuline, who despised the fear of transmigration, saw the Sheikh's excessive love, he revealed himself in his heart. The Sheikh sat motionless. Sheikh felt motionless. The Sheikh sat motionless. The Sheikh sat motionless in the middle of the path, the body blisters like a jackfruit, with his hair standing on end. The Lord of Raghu thereupon drew near and was delighted at heart to see the state of his devotee. Sri Rama tried many ways to rouse the Sheikh, but he would not wake. Lost as he was in the ecstasy of his wishes, Sri Rama then withdrew his kingly views and manifested his full armed form in the Sheikh's hearts. The Sheikhs thereupon started up in great agony, growing as restless as a noble serpent that has lost the gem on his head. But seeing before him the blissful Rama in his swarthy form with Sita and his younger brother Lakshmana, the great and the blessed Sheikh was overwhelmed with affection and dropped like a log at his feet. Taking him in his long arms, the Lord lifted him and with utmost affection passed him to his bosoms, while embracing the Sheikh of the gracious Lord shone forth like a tamla tree meeting a tree of the gold. The Sikh gazed on the Sri Rama's face, standing motionless like a figure drawn in a picture. Summoning courage in his heart and clasping his feet again and again, the Sikhs then conducted the Lord in his hermitage and adoria him homage in many ways. Said the Sikh, listening to the Lord, to my prayers, how am I to hymn your praises? For immeasurable is your glory, and scant is my wit, which is insignificant as the flash of the firefly before the sun. I constantly glorify Shriram, chief of Raghu, with a body dark as a string of the blue lotuses, wearing a crown of the matted locks on his head, and clad in the hermit robes, and crying and carrying a bow and arrow in his hands with a quiver fastened to his waist, the fire which consumes the thick forest of the delusion, the sun that brings delights to the lotus-like sands, the lion who's killed the herd of the elephant in the form of the demons, the hawk that kills the birds of the metempsychosis. May he ever protect us. I extol Sri Rama, whose eyes resemble the red lotuses, who is elegantly dressed, who is full moon to the Sita's Chakura like eyes, who is the Kaichen disporting in the Mansa lake of the Lord Shiva's hearts, and who has a broad chest and a long arm, a Garudas to devour the serpent of the doubt, the queller of the despair induced by the heated controversy, the uprooter of the transmigration, the delighter of the gods, and embodiment of the compassion. May he ever protect us. I sing the praises of the Sri Rama, the reliever of the earth's burden, who is both with and without attributes, who is partial as well as impartial, who transcends knowledge, speech, and the senses, and has no compare. Nay, who is all pure, all comprehensive, faultless, and unlimited, a veritable garden of the wish yielding tree of his devotee, who keep away wrath, greed, pride, and lust, who is the most urban in manner and bridge to cross the ocean of the mundane existence. May the champion of the solar race ever protect me. Matchless is the power of the arm, the home of the strength, the armor of the protection of the rightness, endowed with the host of the delightful virtue. May the Rama, who very name wipe out the greatest sin of the Kali age, be ever propitious to me. Even though he is patientless, all pervading, imperishable, and ever dwelling in the heart of all, let him abide in my thought as a slayer of the Khara, roaming about in the woods with his younger brother Lakshmana and Sita. Let alone, my Lord, those who know you to be both with and without attributes and witness of all hearts. As for myself, may Shri Rama, the lotus eye of the Lord Kaushala, take up his abode in my heart. Let not this exalted feeling disappear from my mind, even in an unguarded moment. That I am his servant and the Lord of Raghu, my master. Sri Rama was delighted at heart to hear the Sikh's words, and in his delights he pressed the great Sikhs of his bosom again. Know me to be supremely pleased, O Sikhs. I am prepared to grant you any boon you may choose to ask. The Sikhs replied, I have never asked any boon and know not what is real and what is unreal, what is chosen and what is rejected. Therefore, O delighter of your devotee, grant me that which passes you, O Lord of Raghu. May you become a repository of wisdom and goodness, as well as of the intense devotion, dissipation, and spiritual wisdom. I have received the boon that my Lord has been pleased to grant. Now vouchsafe to me that which is cherished by me. Armed with the bows and arrow and accompanied by your younger brother and the Janka's daughter Sita, O Lord Sri Rama, pray dwell forever like the moon in the ferment of my heart, through free from every desire. So be it, said Sri Rama, the abode of Lakshmi. The abode of the Lakshmi, as he joyfully started on his visit to Jarbon Sheikh Agastya. It is long time since I last saw my Guru and came to live in this hermitage. Now, my Lord, I will go with you to see my Guru. Thus, I am not putting you under any obligations. The Founder of Mercy saw through the Sheikh's cleverness, and both the brothers smiled as they took him with them, discoursing of the way on the incomparable cult of the devotion to his own feet. Sri Rama, the king of the gods, arrived at the hermitage of the Sheikh Agastya. Sutiksna immediately saw the Guru, and after protesting himself before the latter, thus addressed him, My Lord, the two sons of the king, the Shratha, Kaushala's Lord, the support of the world, have come to see you. Sri Rama is accompanied by his younger brother Lakshmana and Vidya's daughter Sita, whose name you repeat night and day. Venerable sirs, Agastya started up as soon as he heard this and read at the sight of the Sri Ram Hari. His eyes filled with tears. The two brothers fell at the Sheikh's lotus feet, and the Sheikh took and clasped them to his bosom with the utmost affection. Courteously inquiring after their welfare, the enlightened Sheikhs conducted them to a magnificent seat and then offered worship in various ways to the Lord, saying, "There is no other man so blessed as I am." Whatever other Sheikhs had assembled there were all delighted to behold the fountain of the joy. As he sat in the midst of the assembly of the Sheikhs with his face turned towards all and their eyes fixed on his moon-like face, they seemed like a bevy of the chakora birds gazing on the Atmal moon. Then said Sri Rama, the hero of Raghuline, to the Sikhs, "I have nothing to hide from you, my lord. You know what for I have come. That is why, holy sir, I have not dwelt at length on this point. Now, my good sir, give me some advice by following which I may be able to kill the enemies of the hermits." The Sikh smiles when he hears the Lord's remarks. "With what intentions have you asked me these questions?" "It is by virtue of my devotion to you, O destroyer of the sins, that I know a bit of your glory. Your Maya creative potential is like a huge tree of the species known by the name of Udumbara, with the countless multitudes of universe for the clustering fruits. The animate and the inanimate being inhabiting and the various universe are like to be insects that dwell inside the fruits and know to no other things fruits besides the ones they inhabits. The relentless and the dreadful time spirits devours these fruit, but even the then all devouring time ever trembled in fear of you. You who are the suzerain lord of the all the regional lords have asked my advice as though you were a ordinary human being. I ask this boon of you, O home of the mercy. Pray dwell in my heart with your spouse Sita and younger brother Lakshmana, and let me have intense devotion, dispassion, fellowship with the saints, and the unbroken love for your lotus feet. Even though I know you to be the same as the indivisible and the infinite Brahma, the absolute, who can only be realized and cannot be known by the other means, and is adored by the saints, and even though I depict your as such, I feel enormous of your qualified form again and again. You have always exalted your servants. That is why you have thought fit to consult me. O Lord of Raghu, there is my Lord, a most charming and the holy spot. It is called Panchavati. Sanctify the Dandaka forest where it is situated and redeem it from the terrible curse of the great saints Shukracharya. Take up your abode there, O Lord of the Raghulines, and show your grace to all the Sikhs. On receiving the Sikhs' permission, Sri Rama departed and drew near to the Panchavati. In the short while, he made Jatayu the king of the vultures, and developing friendship with him in many ways, the Lord stayed near to the Godavari, where he made himself a thatched hut of the leaves. From the time Sri Rama took up his abode, there is a Sikhs lived happily and were rid of all fear. The hill, woods, and streams and lakes were suffused with beauty and grew yet more lovely day by day. The birds and the deer were full of the joy, and the bees with the sweet humming looked every charming. Not even Shesha, the king of the serpents, would be able to describe the forest which were adorned by the Sri Rama, chief of Raghu. In this mean feast forms. Once upon a time, the Lord was sitting at ease. Lakshmana addressed him in the glueless words, "O Lord of the gods, human beings, Sikhs, and all animate and inanimate creations, I ask you, as for my own master, instruct me, your Lord. Now I may be able to adore the dust of your feet for the exclusions of the everything else, discoursing to me on spiritual wisdom and dissipation as well as my illusions, and also speaks to me about bhakti, due to which you shower your grace. Also explain to me all the differences between God and the individual soul, so that I may be devoted to your feet and my sorrows, infatuation, delusion may disappear. I will explain everything in the nutshell. Listen, dear brothers, with your mind, intellect, and reason fully absorbs the feeling of I and mine, and you and yours is Maya, illusion which holds sway over all created being. Whatever is perceived by the sense and which lies within the reach of the mind, know it all to be the Maya, and hear of the divisions too. They are two, that is knowledge and the ignorance. The one ignorance is vile and extremely painful and has cast the jiva into metamorphosis. The other knowledge which brings forth the creations and which holds sway over the three gunas, sattva, rasa, and tamsa, is directed by the Lord and has no strength of its own. The spiritual wisdom is that which is free from all blemish in the steps of the pride, and which sees the Supreme Spirit equally in all. He alone, dear brother, should be called a man of the supreme dispassions, who has sprung all supernatural power as well as three gunas of which the universe is composed, as if no more account than the blade of the grass. That alone deserves to be called Jiva, individual soul which knows not Maya nor God nor oneself, and the Shiva is he who awarded bondage and liberation according to one deserts, transgressed all and the motivator of Maya. This patience results from the practice of virtue, while spiritual wisdom comes from the practice of yoga, concentration of mind, and the wisdom is the bestower of the liberation. So declare the Vedas, and that which melts my heart quickly. Dear brother, is devotion which is the delight of my devotee, is stand by itself and require no other prop. Where Jana, knowledge of the gods in his absolute formless aspects, and the Vijna, knowledge of the qualified aspect of a god, both with and without form, depend on in devotion, dear brother, is incomparable and the very root of the bliss. It can be acquired only by the favor of the saints. I now proceed to tell you at some length the means of the acquiring devotion and an easy path by which men find me. In the first place, a man should cultivate excessive devotion to the feet of the Brahmans, and secondly, he should remain engaged in his own duty according to the lines laid down by the Vedas. This induced an aversion to the pleasure of the sense and dissipation in its turns engenders a love for my cult. This will bring ShriRam. The street fast. This will bring street fast in the time nine form of the devotion, such as Shravana, hearing of the Lord's praises, and the mind will be developed excessive fondness for my sports. Again, one should be extremely devoted to the lotus feet of the saints and should be persistent in the practice of the adoration through mind, speech, and action. The nine form of devotion are Shravana, the Lord praises and the story, Kirtana, count chanting Lord's names, praises and the stories, Smarna, fixing one's thoughts on Him, Pad Sena, adoring His feet, Archana, worshiping the image of the Lord, Vandana, making obeisances to Him, Dasya, offering devoted services to the Lord, Sankhya, cultivate friendship with Him, Atman within offering oneself to the Lord, recognizing me as his preceptor, father, mother, kinsman, Lord, deity, and all, and should be steadfast in my service. A thrill rain through his bodies, and he sings my praises. His voice gets chokes, and his eyes flowed with tears. He is free from lust and other vices, prides, and the hypocrisy. I am ever at the back and call of such a devotee. May I ever repose in the lotus heart of those who depends on me in thoughts, words, and deed, and who worship me in selfless way. Lakshmana was greatly delighted to hear the above discourse on the discipline of the bhakti devotion and bowed his head at the feet of the Lord. In this way, some days were spent in discoursing on dissipation, spiritual wisdom, goodness, and morality. Now, Ravana, the notorious demon king of the Lanka, has a sister Surpanakha. Women have nails as big as a winnowing fan, by name who was whole-hearted and cruel as a serpent. She once went to the Panchavati and was smitten with pain of love at the sight of the two princes, at the very sight of the handsome man, be he her own brother, father, or son. O Garuda, a wanton woman get excited and cannot restrain her passion, even as the sun stones emits fire. When it brought in front of the sun, having assumed a charming form, she approached the lords and with many smiles addressed the following words to him: There is no man like you and no woman like me. It is with great deliberation that God has made this pair. I have ransacked the three spheres, but have found no suitable match for me in the whole universe. It is for this reason that I have till now remained a virgin. My mind has been set at rest a bit, but only after seeing you. The Lord cast a glance at Sita and said only this much: My younger brother is a bachelor. She went to Lakshmana, who, knowing that she was their enemy's sister, looked at his lord and spoke in gentle tone: Listen, fair lady, I am his servant and dependent, thus you will have no comfort with me. My lord is all powerful and the sovereign king of the Kaushalpura. Whatever he does will be worthy of him. For him, a servant who is aspire for the happiness, a beggar who expects honor, a person addicted to some vice who hopes for the riches, a profligator who seeks a blessed state after death, an avaricious man who covets fame, and the profound man who expects the four prizes of the life. All these men expect to get milk by the milking the heaven. Again she turns and came to the Sri Rama, but the Lord sent her back to the Lakshmana, said, Lakshmana, he alone will wed you, who deliberately cast all shame to the winds. Thereupon she went flirting and foaming to Sri Rama and revealed the frightful demonic form. The Lord of Raghu saw the Sita was terrified and made a sign to his younger brother Lakshmana. In great agility, Lakshmana struck off her nose and the ears, thereby challenging Ravana throw her to the contest as it were. Without nose and ears, she wore a hideous aspect and looked like a mountain flowing with the torrents and the red orchards. She went sobbing to the Khara and Dushna, fie upon your motherhood, manhood, and the strength, but brothers. Cautioned by them, she told them everything in details. Hearing her reports, the demon chief gathered an army. Swarming multitudes of demons of the diverse shape rushed forth like host of the winged mountain of the collyrium of the vehicles of the various kinds. They were infinite in number and were armed with the terrible weapons of the various kinds. They placed at their heads surpnakhas, shown of her ears, and nose and and thus presenting an inauspicious sight. Numberless ill omens of the fearful nature occurred to them, but the host heeded them not. Doomed as they all were to the death, they rode and the bullied and the sprang in the air, and the champions were filled with excessive joy to see the army. Said one, capture the two brothers alive, and having captured them, kill them and carry off the women. The vault of the heavens was overhung with the dust raised by them. Seeing this, Sri Rama's called his younger brother Lakshmana and said, take Janka's daughter to some mountain cave. A terrible array of the demons has come. Therefore remain on your guard. Obedient to his lord's commands, he withdrew to the safe retreat with Sita, bow and the arrow in hand. And Sri Rama saw that the hostile force had advanced. He smiled and he strung his formidable bow. As he coiled his metal lock into the top of his head, after strangling his formidable bows, it seemed as if a pair of the snakes were engaged in the conflict with countless streaks of the lightning of mountain of the emerald, having reared up his quiver at his waist and clasping the bow in his long arms and putting his arrow in order, he took at the enemy. Even a lion, a king of the beast, would glare at a herd of the large elephants. Valiant champions came rushing with all speeding, shouting, seize him, even as the demon closed round upon the rising sun, finding it all alone. Finding all closed round with the rising sun, finding it all around. Even as they beheld the lords in invading warriors could not discharge their arrow, the whole demon's host became powerless. Khara and Dushna summons their ministers and said, the princes, whoever he may be, is the ornaments of the human race, of all the Nagas, demons, gods, human beings, and the Sikhs that exist in this universe. We have seen vanquishing our or slain many, but during our whole life, lean to us, our Britons all, we have never beheld such beauty. Even though he has disfigures our sister, he does not deserve that. Peerless as he is among men, surrender to us at once the women you have put in hiding somewhere, and return home with your life, both you and your brother. Deliver this message of mine to him and returns immediately with the reply. The herald went to the Sri Rama and delivered the message to him, in reply to which the Sri Rama smilingly said, we are Kshatriya by birth and giving to the hunting in the woods. Wretched like you are the game that we are tracking. We are never dismayed at the sight of the mighty foe, and would give battle to the death himself if he ever appeared before us. Through human being, we are the exterminators of the race of the demons, and through youthful in appearance, ye are the protector of the hermits and the torments of the weak. If you have no stand to the fight, you had better return home. I have never killed an enemy who has turned his back upon a field of the battle. When you have come up to the fight, it would be height of the weakness to play willy pranks or to show compassion to your enemy. The Harlands returned forthwith and repeated all they had been told. The heart of the Khara and Dushna was on fire when they heard this. Their heart was on the fire and they exclaimed, capture him. Hearing with furious demons come champion rush force, all armed with the bows and the arrow, steel clubs, pikes, spears, schemers, the mac and the axle. First of all, Lord gave him bow a twang shrill, terrific, and the fearful, which defeated and discharged the demons, and they had no sense left in them at that time. Having learned that the very comforting and powerful army, the demon warriors now rushed with caution and began to hurl missiles and the weapons of the various kind on the ShriRam. The hero of Raghulan, however, tore them into the pieces as small as his Christmas seeds, and then drawing the bow strings to his ears, let fly his own arrows. Then the terrible arrows spat forth, hissing like many serpents. Sri Rama got infuriated in battle, and arrows exceedingly sharp flew from his bows. The demon warriors sons and fled when they found the arrow so keen. The three brothers, Khara, Dushna, and Trisha, now fled into the ring. Whoever flee from the battlefield will be killed by us with our own hands. At this, the warrior turns back, fully resolved to the dais, and made a frontal attack with weapons of the every description. Perceiving that the enemy was exceedingly furious, the lords fitted arrows in his bows and discharged many a shaft of the Nachara type, which a result of the frightening field began to be moved down. Trunks, heads, arms, heads, and feet began to drop on the ground here and there. Everywhere, pairs of the shafts they yield, and their trunks were like a mountain. The bodies of the warriors were torn into the hundred pieces, and resorting to this deceptive method, they stood up again. The number of arms and the heads flew through the airs, and the headless trunks ran in to and fro. Birds like kites and the crows and the jackals wrangled in the cruel and the awful way. Jackass, Jangles, ghost spirits, and the fiend filled the bowls of the skulls with blood. Devil clashes the heads of the slain warriors like Campbells, and the yoginis dance. Sri Rama fierce arrows tore to the pieces the leaders' brass arms and the heads. Their bodies fell on every side, but stood up again to fight with terrible cries of the seas. Capture, vulture, flew away with the ends of the entrail and his claws, while goblins scampered with one another and held their hands. One might fancy, and the numberless children of the town of the battle flew with the flying kites. A large number of champions that had been smitten or to knock down, or whose breast has been torn, lay mourning, finding their army in distress. Leaders like Trisha, Khara, and Dushna turns towards Sri Rama. Countless demons hurled furiously against the hero of Raghuline, arrows, spears, iron clubs, axes, javelins, and the daggers. All at once, the twinkling of the eyes, Lord warded off the enemy's shafts and sent forth his own arrow, planting 10 shafts in the breast, and each champion of the demon host. The leaders fell the ground, but rose again and joined in the fray. Yet they would not die, and played very many tricks. The gods trembled with the fears when they saw that the demons number 14,000, while the Lord of Ayodhya was all alone. Finding the gods and the six alarms, the Lord, who is the controller of the Maya cosmic illusions, what a great miracle. A demon saw one another in the form of Sri Rama, so that the enemy warrior fought among themselves and perished. They quitted their body, crying Rama Rama, thereby attaining the state of the eternal bliss. Falling back upon this device, the ocean of mercy killed the enemy in an instant. The gods, in their exclusions, rained down flowers, and kettle drums sounded in the heavens, and hymning their praises one after another, they all left shining in their cars of the various patterns. When the Lord of Raghu have vanquished the foe in the battle, the gods, human being, and the saints were all rid of the fear. Then Lakshmana brought Sita back, and he fell at his feet. The Lord joyfully clasped them to his bosom. Sita fixed her gaze on his swarthy and delicate form with utmost affection, but her eyes knew no satiety. Thus, dwelling at Panchavati, the blessed Lord of the Raghu performed deed that delights gods and the sages like. Perceiving the destruction of Kara and Dushna, Surpanakha approached Ravana and instigated him against Sri Rama. The ingrate Farishi rated him in the following words: discarding all thought of your reliefs and exchequers, you drink and sleep day and night, and take no heed of the enemy, who is now at your very door. Sovereignty without political insights, and wealth divorced from the virtue. Noble deed that have not been offered to the Sri Hari, and learning which does not begin. Discrimination is nothing but fruitless labor to the man who has gained such kingdom or wealth. To the doers of the noble act, and for the sudden respectively, I reclose it quickly undone by the attachment. The king by evil counsel, wisdom by conceit, modesty by drinking, friendship by want of the love, and Man of the merit by vanity, such is the maxim I have heard. An enemy a melody fires since the master serpents are never to be accounted sacrifice. So saying and with profuse lament she sat to on weeping. In her distress she threw herself down to the Ravana's courts and with many tears said, "Do you think, my ten-headed brothers, that I should be reduced to this state even though you are alive?" On hearing this, the coteries rose in the great bewilderment. Taking her by the arms, they lifted her up and comforted her. Said the king of the Lanka, "Tell me what has happened to you. Who has struck off your nose and the ears?" Two sons of the Dashatha, the lord of the Ayodhya, who are loyal among men and are out of the hunting in the woods. The estimate that I have formed of this doing is that they will rid the earth of the demon, relying on the might of this arm. So, ten-headed Ravana, the hermits roams about the wood without fear. Throw quit young to look at, they are terrible as death. The staunchest of the archer and accomplished in many ways, both brothers are unequaled in might and the glory. Devoted to the examination of the wick, they are source of the delight to the gods and the sages. The elder of the two, who is a abode of the beauty, is known by the name of the Rama. He has been him a young belly. A creator met the woman is the very embodiment of loveliness. 100 millions ratis, consort of the god of love, are sacrificed before her. It was his younger brother Lakshmana who chopped off my ears and the nose and made a mock of me when he heard that I was your sisters. When Khara and Dushna heard of it, they went to avenge the wrong done to me. But Rama slew the whole army in a thrice. The ten-headed demon Ravana burns all over with rage when he heard the destruction of Khara, Dushna and the Tisha. Having consulted Sombraga, he boasted his strength in many ways, but he raised to his place full of the great anxiety and could not sleep the whole night. Among gods, human beings, demons, nagas, and the birds, he thought there is none who can withstand my servants. As for Khara and Dushna, they were as powerful as myself. Who else could have killed them had it not been the Lord Himself? It therefore the Lord Himself, the delighter of the gods and the reliever of the earth burden, has appeared on the earth. I will go and resolutely fight with him and cross the ocean of the mundane existence by falling to his arrows. Adoration is out of caution in this demonic body, which is made up of the principle of ignorance, tamsa. Therefore, such is my firm resolve in thoughts, words, and deed. And if they happen to be so mortal princes, I shall conquer them both in the battle and carry off their bride. Having thus made up his minds, he mounted his carrots and drove off alone to the spots where Marika was living by the seashore. Now here, Uma, the delectable account of the device of the Sri Rama's and pride. And Lakshmana had gone to the woods to gather roots, fruits, and the bulbs. Sri Rama, the very incarnation of compassion and joy, spoke with a smile, the Janka's daughter. This is my darling, who have been staunch in the holy vow of the fidelity to me and are so virtuous in conduct. I am going to add a lovely human part. Abide in fire until I have completed the destruction of the demon. No sooner had Rashi Rama told her everything in detail than she impressed the image of the Lord's feet on her heart and entered into the fire, leaving with him only of the shadow of the of hers, so precisely of the same appearance and the same amiable and the gentle disposition. Lakshmana too did not know the secret of what the Lord had done behind the curtain. The ten-headed Ravana approached Varika and bowed his head to him, selfish and vile as he was. The meekness of the man creature is the source of the great trouble, like a bending of the god, bow, snake or cat. The sugar-coated speech of the villain is alarm is Bhavani Parvati as a flowers of the blossom out of the seasons. After doing her homage, Marika respectfully inquired of his errand. Therefore, my son, are you so much disturbed in my mind that you have come all the way alone? The wretched Ravana probably repeated the whole story to him and added, "Assumes the fall appearance of a wily deer, so that I may be able to abduct the princess." Marika, however, remonstrated, "Listen, Ravana, though distinguished as a man, he is a lord of the whole animate and the inanimate creations. There can be no quarrel with him, dear son. We die when he would have us die and live only by his sufferance." Those very princes had gone to guard to the sacrifice of the sacred Vishwamitra when Sri Rama, the Lord of Raghu, smote with the pointless arrow that threw me a distance of the 800 miles in an instant. It will not be good to antagonize him. I find myself reduced to the position of the insects caught in the nest of the Brangai, vast like winged creatures, inasmuch as behold the two brothers wherever I look. Even if they are human beings, dear sons, they are remarkable heroes, not less, and oppositions to them will not evil. That can he possibly be a man who recklessly killed Tatka and the Subha, who broke Shiva's bows and slew Khara, Dushna, and the Trisha? Therefore, considering the welfare of your race, you had better return home. When he heard this, he flared up and showered many abuses to Marika. You fool, you presume to teach me as if you were my preceptor. Tell me which warrior in this world is match for me. Then Marika thought to himself, if it does not do one good to make enemies of the following lines, and is skilled in the use of the weapon, one who knows one's secrets, a powerful master, a dons, a wealthy man, a physician, a pangerist, a poet, or an expert cook. Either way, he saw he must die, hence he sought refuge in the lords of Raghu. If I argue further, the rest would kill me. Why then should I not be killed by the ShriRama's arrows? Pondering thus in his mind, he accomplished Ravana's unremitting in his devotion to Sri Rama's feet. He felt extremely delighted at the thought that he would be able to behold his greatest friend Sri Rama, even though he would not reveal his joy to Ravana. My eyes will be rewarded when I behold my Lord, most beloved Lord. To my great exclusions, I shall fix my thought on the feet of the All Merciful, accompanied by the Sita and his younger brother. To think that Sri Rama is the ocean of the bliss, whose very wrath confers final beatitude, and who thought subject of none, given himself up entirely to the will of his devotee, will fit an arrow with his own hands to his bow and slay me. As he runs after me on foot, carrying his bows and arrows, I shall again and again turn in order to get a sight of my Lord. No one else is so blessed as I am. When the ten-headed Ravana drew near to the forest in which Sri Rama had taken up his abode, Marika assumes the false appearance of the deer, so very wonderful as the defied description, with the body of the goat artistically inlaid with jewels. When Sita saw the exquisitely beautiful creature, most lovely in every limb, she said, "Listen, my gracious lord of the Sri Rama, the hero of Raghunath, this deer has most charming skins. Pray kill this animals, may Lord, and get me the height true as you are of the you hide. Pray kill the animals, my lord, and get me the hide true as you are to your words." Thereupon the Lord, even though he knew all the circumstances that had led Marika to assume the semblance of the deers, arose in joy to accomplish the object of the gods. Casting a look at the deer, he girded up his loins and piece of the cloth, and taking the bows in his hand, fitted a shining arrow to the same. The Lord cautions Lakshmana, a host of the demon's brothers roams about in the wood. Take care of the Sita with due regards to your strength and circumstances, and making use of your intellect and discretion. The deer took the flight of the sight of the lords, and Sri Rama ran after the putting his bow strings. How strange is that he whom the Vedas describes in negative terms such as not that, whom Shiva is unable to catch holds of even in meditations, ran in pursuit of the false deers. Now close at hand, the very next moment, it ran away some distance at some time. It came into view at another. It went out of the sight, thus alternatively revealing and concealing itself and practicing every kind of the vice. It took the lords far away. Now Sri Rama took a steady aim and let fly the fatal shafts when the animal fell to the ground with the fearful cry. First calling aloud to Lakshmana, but afterward mentally invoking Sri Rama. While giving up the ghost, it manifested its real form and lovingly remembered Sri Rama, the omniscient Lord, who could see the love of his heart, conferred on him the state which cannot be easily attained to even by the sages. The gods rained down flowers to the abundance and sang praises to the Lord of Raghu, in such a friends of the humble that he conferred his own state divinity on the demon. As soon as he had slain the wretch, the hero of Raghunath turns back, the charming bows of his hands inquire at his breast. When Sita heard the cry of the distress, she was seized with excessive fears and said to the Lakshmana, "Go quickly, your brother in the great peril." Lakshmana answered with a smile, "Listen, mother, by the very play of the Sri Rama's eyebrow, the entire creation of the inherited, could he then ever dream of being in danger?" But when Sita urged him with words that cut him to the quick resolution for such was Sri Rama's will was shaken. He entrusted her to the care of all the Salvan gods and the deities presiding over the quarters, and proceeded to the place where Sri Rama, a veritable Rahu to the moon like Ravana, was availing himself of his opportunity. When there was none by the side of the Sita, the ten-headed Ravana drew near to her cottage in the guise of the recluse. He, in fear of whom the gods and the demons equally trembled, so much so that they could neither sleep at night or not eat their food by the day. That very Ravana proceeded on the mission of the thieving, looking this side and that side like a cur. Even so, the moment a man sets his foot on the path of the wise, O Garuda, king of the birds, his bodily glow, reason, and strength completely disappears. Having invented alluring stories of the various kinds, he not only showed her the course which was dictated by political wisdom, but also used threats and made love to her. Said Sita, listen, O holy father, you have spoken like a villain. Thus, Ravana reveals his real form as she was terrified when he mentioned his name. Sita pulled all her courage and said, stay a while, O wretch. My lord has come, even as a tiny hair could wed a loin. So have you wooed your own destruction by setting your heart on me. O king of the demon, O hearing of these words, the ten-headed Ravana flew into the lake. Through in his heart he rejoiced to adore her feet. Full of the rage, Ravana now seated her in his carriage and drove through the air in great flurry. He was so much afraid that he was scarcely able to drive. Our Lord of Raghupilla, champions of the world, reliever of the distress and delighter of the suppliant, the sun that gladdened the lotus-like rays of the Raghu. For what fault of mine you forget showing mercy? Lakshmana, the fault is none of yours. I have reaped the fruit of the temper I showed. Manifold were the lamentations that Vidya's daughter uttered. Through boundless of his mercy, my loving Lord is far away. Who will appraise the Lord of my calamity? As could eat the sacrificial oblations at the sound of the Sita's loud wailing, all created being, whether animate or inanimate, felt distress. Jatayu, the king of the vulture, heard the piteous cries and recognizing from her voice that it was the spouse of the Shriram, the glory of the Raku race, who was being carried away by the wild demon Ravana like a dun cow that had been fallen into the hands of some barbarian. Sita, my daughter, fear not. I will kill the demons. The birds they darted off. Its furry like a thunderbolt hurled against a mountain. Why do you not stop, O villain? You are proceedingly fearlessly, as if you have not yet known me. When he saw the vulture bearing down upon him like death, the ten-headed monster turns towards him and reflected, it is a Mount Menka, or can it be Garuda, the king of the birds? The latter, however, knows my strength, as also his lords Bhagwan Vishnu. When the birds drew near, he recognized it and said, it is no other than the aged Jatayu. He has come to drop his body at the sanctuary of my hand. At this, the vulture rushed in the excitement of his fury, exclaimed, listen, Ravana, to my advice, and returned home safely, letting Janka's daughter alone. Otherwise, despise your many arms, what will be happen in this? In the most terrible flame of the Sri Rama wrath, your whole house will be consumed like a moth. Bellicose Ravana, however, gave no answer. The vulture Jatayu thereupon rushed wildly on the clutching the demon by a hair, pulled him from the carriage so that he fell to the ground. Having placed Sita in the safe retreat, the vulture turns once more toward Ravana and striking him with his beast over his body. For nearly half an hour, Ravana lays unconscious. Much annoyed at this, the demons now angrily drew his most dreadful sword and cut off Jatayu's wings. Invoking Sri Ramas and having accomplished marvelous feats, the birds fell on the ground. Ravana took Sita once more into the cars and drove off in haste, greatly alarmed. Sita was borne through the air, lamenting like a frightened doe caught in the trap of the hunter. Perceiving some monkey perched on the hill, she dropped some cloth uttering Sri Hari's names in the manner Ravana took Sita away and kept her in the Ashoka garden. The wretch tried every kind of threat and endearment, but failed miserably. At last, he kept her under a Ashoka tree strongly guarded for 6 or 9 days recitation.